Have you ever been sitting there during your fantasy football draft and somebody did something so stupid that it made you burst out in laughter? Yeah, you don't want to be the one getting laughed at, especially in a year as crappy as 2020 has been. So hit the like button because I got 8 mistakes you want to avoid in 2020 fantasy football. What is going on, Headliner Nation? Jake Fantasy Headliners. Hopefully everybody's doing well out there, and we're talking mistakes, right? Mistakes to avoid in 2020 fantasy football. Now, if you can avoid these 8 mistakes that I have, it'll set you up for the possibility of a great fantasy football year, right? 2020 has basically sucked. We want to make sure that we set ourselves up to end it on a high note, right? With fantasy football championships, that's what we're trying to accomplish here today. And I want to start it off with a question. I want to be interactive. So down below in the comment section, tell me the dumbest draft pick you've ever seen happen in one of your fantasy football drafts. Maybe you made the pick on accident. Maybe somebody else did just because they didn't know any better. Throw it down below in the comment section. I'm eager to read some of those and laugh a little bit because a lot of people have a lot of stories to share. Throw them down there. A lot of people would love to read through them. Also, our draft guides for sale on our website, $19.99. Right now, almost 600 virtual pages of all things fantasy football. Doesn't matter what it is, you're going to get it in this guide. You're not going to leave going, man, I wish I could find something else. No, it's in there. Trust me, we got you covered. It's $19.99. And if for some reason the NFL season cancels and does not play at all, and you bought in a draft guide, don't worry, you'll still get one this year for your reading pleasure. And then we'll also send you one in 2021, so you're really not losing out on anything. Just our way to try to give back as much as we can to the community here, especially in this time of need. But now, let's talk about the top 8 mistakes that you need to avoid during your fantasy football drafts here in 2020. All right, first mistake we're going to be talking about, and these are in no special order. They all suck equally. Number 1 is going to be not knowing your league settings. Now, a lot of people will go into their drafts, and nowadays, especially in 2020, you're starting to see all these different types of scoring leagues, whether it's a tight end premium, super flex with 2 quarterbacks, maybe you're starting 3 flex players. The same old boring regular fantasy football of the olden days is gone. There are a lot of new scoring ways out there to try to spice up a lot of leagues. Do yourself a favor. Before your draft, heck, maybe even a month before your draft, if you really want to win, go take a look at your scoring settings, find out where your points come from, because the last time I checked, you win fantasy football matchups by scoring points. So you want to make sure you target those guys who are most likely to score the biggest amount of points. That's what it's all about. Take a look at those settings, those scoring settings prior to your draft. Trust me, you're definitely going to want to do that. Number 2 is going to be getting expert advice. Now, I see this way too much in social media still, and I've mentioned this on the channel before. I'm not going to give it up because I see it all over Twitter, other YouTube accounts. I mean, there's stuff all over the place with people calling themselves experts in fantasy football. They've joined this expert-only league. Get over yourself. There's no such thing as an expert in fantasy football. There's not. Nobody can see the future. We're analysts, right? We spend an ungodly amount of time watching video, breaking down numbers, looking at matchups, just to supply you with information. You'll never hear us call ourselves experts over here. And more than anything, we're just trying to supply that information. Some opinions that we have based off of facts, and just supply a little bit of perspective to you, the team owner, so you can make your decisions for your team a little bit easier, right? I mean, you're not looking for somebody to set your lineup for you. Then it's not your team. It takes the fun out of it, kind of. That's kind of why we all love fantasy football. It's the competition side of things. Yeah, everybody wants to win, but when you're asking the opinion of somebody about, hey, who should I start, A or B, there's a lot that goes into that. Yeah, we can break it down by player on who we like more, but we don't know all your league scoring settings. We don't know the team that you're playing against. We don't know what injuries may be on your roster. We don't know what injuries your opponent may have. I mean, there's a lot that goes into this type of stuff that if somebody's out there telling you to do something, just proceed with caution because they don't know. And if anything, they're just trying to get views. We're trying to get fantasy football championships around here. The views just come along with that. Build the track record. I would like to think that we've built somewhat of a track record here over the past couple years to start to earn some of that trust from the viewers. That's what it's all about. Supply the information. Don't go to the experts. Number 3 is one that I see in the comment section quite a bit, is drafting position instead of player, right? I see it a lot. I'm going running back, wide receiver in my draft. I'm going 3 straight running backs. I'm going 3 straight wide receivers. Be careful with that. You do not want to lock yourself in to a certain position in a certain round. Why not? Well, what happens if you're sitting there in the 3rd round and you're sold on getting a wide receiver, but maybe the number 1 tight end is still on the board? Maybe a 2nd round value running back is still on the board. Maybe he's slipped and fallen down the draft board and you have that opportunity to grab him, but on your sheet it says wide receiver. And wide receiver is pretty deep. You can make mistakes this way by following, a set guideline of what position you want in each round. Don't do that. Look at what the draft gives you. Take the best players available for the needs that you currently have. Don't just, go in there with this plan and stick to it 100% because this is exactly how it's going to go. A lot of people put a lot of prep work into a lot of drafts, and within the first 2 rounds, their plans are totally, blown up. I mean, things just don't go as, they're supposed to. Somebody in the league freaks out and takes a quarterback in the 1st round. That messes up a lot of draft plans for a lot of people. Have a plan, but be willing to modify that plan as the draft goes. That's how you're going to get the best team available, not just filling needs and roster spots. Number 4 is going to be worrying too much about bye weeks. A lot of people want to know about bye weeks. How closely do you pay attention to them? Now, yeah, I'll watch them as I'm going through a draft just to make sure not everybody's going to be off week 11 or whatever week it is, but I don't pay that close attention because I'm still trying to build the best team available. If that means that I end up going 13-1, then so be it. I want the best team I can. I'm not going to bypass a great player just because of his bye week. A lot can happen throughout the season with injuries and waiver wire additions that you can get to fill needs. I'm not too concerned about that on draft day. Now, like I said, you watch it. It's in the back of your mind, right? But if a great player is staring you in the face, don't pass on him just because of his bye week. Next up is going to be name value versus real value, and I have the perfect example here for 2020. It's going to be Rob Gronkowski, right? The last time Gronk was on some draft boards, just a few short years ago, people were taking him within the first 2 rounds of fantasy football drafts. In 2020, not recommended to take Rob Gronkowski in the first 2 rounds of your fantasy football drafts. Why? You can get him later. We're not expecting the same production, in 2020 that we saw in years past from Gronk. Yeah, the storyline is awesome with him going to Tampa Bay, rejoining, Tom Brady in a Bruce Arians offense that's going to throw the ball a lot. I get it. I understand. I like Gronk this year. Do I think he's the number 1 overall tight end that should be drafted in the first 2 rounds? No, I don't. Understand real value. Don't get caught up in name value. And then all of a sudden, it really, adds to the depth of your fantasy football team because you're getting great value picks later on and really stashing all those studs early in your fantasy football drafts. What about buying into the rookie hype, right? Everybody wants the shiny new toy on their fantasy football draft Christmas morning, right? They want the Jonathan Taylors, the Clyde Edwards-Hilairs, the CeeDee Lambs, the Jerry Judys, but do we really want to overpay for them just because they're new? Remember, they're all unproven. We all, have expectations and we think we know what's going to happen, like with the running back, situation in Kansas City. We love Clyde Edwards-Helaire. They spent a 1st-round draft pick on him. They're going to use him, but Damian Williams is still in the mix. How much is he going to be involved? Is he maybe a little bit more involved the first 4 weeks of the season? But you draft Clyde Edwards-Helaire to be your running back too because you wanted to grab him early. And now for the first 4 weeks of the season, you're struggling at running back, putting yourself in a hole. Everybody has value, maybe except for Ronald Jones. But everybody has value in fantasy football. It's all about where you get them. Don't reach early just because they're a rookie. Now, if you're in a dynasty format, yeah, things are going to be a little bit different in rookie drafts, understood. But for the main, redraft crowd, everybody doing their yearly fantasy football teams, be careful with rookies. Unless you have that great gut feeling or you have some insider information, there's a chance that these guys may not do a whole lot. For example, David Montgomery last year, right? So many people out there in the Twitterverse and on YouTube love David Montgomery. How did that work out? Exactly. Just don't overhype and overspend too much on rookies, especially here in 2020, because there's some great talents. They may just take a year to get to where a lot of people see their potential. So don't overpay for rookies. How about drafting kickers? Yep, that's a mistake for a lot of people. But you're like, Jake, I have to draft a kicker. There's kickers in my league. What am I supposed to do? Easy. It's a little bit of an insider tip. Don't draft a kicker. Unless your draft is like a couple days before the season starts, then yes. But if you draft any time in August, don't draft a kicker. Draft an extra running back, an extra wide receiver. This is going to be a strange offseason, right? A lot of guys not getting to work out how they wanted. We may see an increase in injuries this year, some soft tissue injuries, some pulled hamstrings. I mean, I'm not, wishing bad on anybody, but that's something we could see here. Get that extra position player, that extra running back, that extra wide receiver. Give yourself an option there on the bench for a few weeks. What happens if one of these top guys tears an ACL in camp or a preseason game, and all of a sudden you have a handcuff sitting on your bench that is now going to be the team's number one running back? I would rather have that opportunity than be rostering a kicker that I don't need for weeks. There's going to be somebody else on your roster that you can drop come week one to grab yourself a kicker. But in the meantime, take a stab at an extra position player, an extra skill player. You never know. It may just pan out and give yourself another huge option going into the season. Last one's going to be blowing your team up too early. A lot of people will come out, and if they start 0-1 or they start 0-2, they panic, right? They either make some crazy trades, they drop people to the waiver wire, and the next thing you know, other people are scooping up these players and really benefiting from it. Don't give up on your studs. Don't give up on your team a week or two into the season. It's still too early at that point. The last thing you want to do is take somebody who you spent a decent, draft pick on, drop them, have somebody claim them off waivers, and then they end up beating the crap out of you with their team with your old players. That's just not a cool way to go out in fantasy football. Give it some time. We do weekly waiver wire articles and videos here on this channel, trying to make sure that you have a week's heads up of players to be targeting and looking for. Don't be going and rushing to just drop, everybody on your team. They're owned for a reason. They were drafted there for a reason. If they struggle for a week or two, don't worry. Give them time to bounce back. Don't blow it up too early. Give them a few weeks into the season. Pay attention to your standings. If you really start, digging a hole in those standings and you're already 4-5 games out of first place in your division and you're in week 5 or 6, okay, you got a problem. We need to make some adjustments. But if you're 0-1, don't get pissed off and think your season is over that soon. All right, so those are my top 8 mistakes here for 2020 fantasy football. There's going to be more out there, right? There's a lot of mistakes you can make with fantasy football, but it's a game. It's meant to be fun. If it was easy and everybody had the answers all the time, it would just get boring. That's why we love it so much, right? The unknown, the competition side of things. The amount of information that we want to put out on this channel for you guys is absolutely mind-blowing here this year. We got Patreon with exclusive only content over there, our draft guide coming out, all the videos that are still on YouTube. It's all separate content. It's not like we take one video and paste it on all these different platforms. It's all different content for as much information as you, the viewer, wants to consume. It's out there if you want it. But I want to make sure we get these out there now. So a lot of people, while you're bored and quarantined, start getting together a little bit of a draft plan. Maybe you want to end 2020 strong. 2020 has been crap for you, maybe. It would feel pretty good to end the year with a fantasy football championship. So make sure you avoid these mistakes here this year. Build yourself an awesome team. And you never know, you may be walking out with some cash or a trophy come the end of the season. That's what it's all about over here. But hey, we want to keep it interactive, right? Maybe you've learned some life lessons through the game of fantasy football. If you have some other mistakes that you make sure you want to avoid every year, put them down below in the comment section. That's what this is all about, is trying to help a community win a bunch of fantasy football championships. I know for myself, for Kyle, all the other members of Headliner Nation, we greatly appreciate your support, and we look forward to helping you here in 2020. Let's kill it. We'll talk to you later.